We are live.
And welcome everyone to episode 27 of the podcast, How Do You Know That with Robert Hollis. And we are so glad to have you with us today. Before we get things going, if you are watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and share button, as well as the subscribe button to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you are listening to us elsewhere in the podcast universe, please like and share this with your friends and help us spread the word. Also, if you'd like to join our exclusive community, the Inner Circle, you can join us by going to roberthollis.com/join to register, or click on the link at the bottom of this video. There will be lots of great exclusive content, and you'll be able to participate in our special breakthrough sessions that take place every Thursday to help you move forward to the next level. Today is episode 27 of How Do You Know That? And we've got a great topic for you. How important are words? Now, allow me to introduce our host of today's show. He is an entrepreneurial evangelist renowned for his incredible achievements. He is also known for inspiring countless of individuals around the globe with his unwavering determination and spirit, and he has also helped 67 people, as of this date, become millionaires. Known as a mentor, GPS to success, and a dear friend, ladies and gentlemen, Robert Hollis!
Craig, the hostess with the mostest, and of course the the one of the visionaries. Thank you so much. That never gets tiring. That never gets tiring. When I hear Craig do that, the one thing I'd like to do to flip your perspective and belief is I pray one day, whether you think you deserve it or not, that you have someone incredible as Craig introducing you like that. That's my hope and prayer for you. And of course, behind the scenes, but in this scene, Matthew, my son, love and appreciate him so much. It's funny, we never stop talking about things, and then we jump on here and we keep talking, then we get off here and then we talk. And so it's
Right.
So-
we actually were talking about interesting stuff before we just went live, and then we're like, it's 1:01 p.m. We got to get on. We got to talk to everybody.
Yeah.
So
And Craig and I had some great talks today as well. And it's this is such a powerful statement because there's a lot of people don't want to believe what I'm about ready to say, and we'll open this up because when I first heard this, it was one of those things. If I would love anything, is again to help you with your awareness. And I believe the stories that we tell, the podcasts that we have, is to really get you to understand that you do have control over your life. You 100% do. Even though you would like to fight me in a debate to prove otherwise. You would rather fight for the right to be right, to prove to me that your individual struggle that you have right now is not only something that you can't stop from happening, but you really don't believe that you have the ability to change your situation, environment, and everything. And I understand that because when I first went to my quote unquote first personal development seminar, I heard some of these insane, stupid phrases. Like, if I change, everything changes. Yeah, bullshit. You know what I mean? And then what my mentor did for me, I want to do with you guys real quick, and then we'll just start opening it up and sharing. But he basically said to me and everyone that was in the crowd, he says, don't you ever get pissed off of how programmed you are already? And we would all go, well, what are you talking about? And he would play a tune and it would go plop, plop, fizz, fizz. And then he would stop it. And everyone in the audience would go, oh, what a relief it is, and he would do these over and over and over. And these are things that none of us made a decision that, you know what, I'm going to remember this jingle. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to remember this jingle. And of course, he done songs like, there was a lady, a lovely lady that grew up with 3 girls of her own. All of them had hair of gold, like their mother. The youngest one.
No idea what you guys are saying.
So
Welcome to the Brady Bunch, Matt.
Yeah. But there's these things that we listen to, these jingles and these songs and these things, but yet we don't know what we do, why we do. And all of a sudden we might hear a number of times a day, da 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 da.
I'm loving it.
I'm loving it. Yeah. It's like, and then we're driving like 10 more minutes and you go, are you hungry? Yeah. You know what? I haven't had McDonald's fries in a while.
I kind of want them right
now. But yeah,
you just plant something in everybody's head.
Yeah.
Right.
And so here's something that you guys may or may not know. You can Google this and check it out on AI to prove that it's fact. But before the government caught on to it, there was actually commercials and stuff in movies that were purposely done to do subliminal programming. They were actually doing things on the screen that we watched and we didn't know, that was changing our programming on how we believed and thought about things and how we purchased them. And somehow this secret got out and the government said, you guys can't no longer do that. You got to stop doing that. Now we're going to continue to use it. No, I'm kidding. But, or am I? Okay. Anyway, but and so, this whole topic is that how important words are. And there's still when Bill did that to me, and I realized that there was a lot of things that I knew and I didn't know why I knew them. And I wasn't paying attention to this programming. Like, why do we have to watch the news? We got to watch the news. I mean, we got to know what's going on. Come on. Don't you got to know what's going on so you can protect yourself? It's like, we got to know this stuff, right? And so it's this constant programming of being in a competitive nature where if you're blue and I'm red, then we need to fight. You're on the wrong side. And that we constantly have these things where there's this constant division. Because with division, I think I've shared in other videos that when the new king got christened, right? Or whatever, so we lost the Queen Elizabeth and now we have King Charles, right? And there was a comic that I've seen before, but this time it was with King Charles. And he's standing there and all the people are below him. And he's going, well, now that I'm in charge and the Queen is no longer here, then everyone gets to blame me. And the court jester behind him said, no, we've already convinced. See the people that are down there that are holding pitchforks? Yeah. They're already hated by the people that are holding the torches. See the people that are holding the torches? Yeah. Torch people don't like pitchfork people. And pitchfork people don't like. So as long as we can keep telling them that the other side's the problem, they don't give a shit about you. And I went, wow. So it's this constant chaos that they keep throwing at us, that there's something that's more pressing and scary. That, do you know that right now the weather's affecting 30 million Americans right now because it's too cold. But the other 30 million Americans, it's warmer than normal and we're going to run out of frickin' water. And I guess for the other 30%, have a happy day, but tomorrow's going to suck, man. Because the weather's coming your way.
5-day forecast, man.
Oh my God. So we don't want to believe that other people are using words to put us in a state of being fearful and not knowing what's going on and constantly having fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So we don't know how to get us out of this situation. So, man, I sure hope that the government does. I sure hope that the red people figure it out. I sure hope the blue people figure it out. And what it does is it puts us in a place of not wanting to move forward because we're uncertain if there is a forward. Okay. So no one wants to admit that words have already controlling you and have actually put you where you are right now. because you're not willing to stand up and listen to different words, including words that you say to yourself, to change everything instantly. See, there's no way that it could be that fucking easy. No way. No way. So there's a lot of things that, I don't no longer think. And then I think things where everyone makes me feel weird. Like, you're a weirdo, Robert. That's where I know that I'm in the right place. If I can get a hater for saying gooder, I know my words are hitting people with the wrong programming. Right? I seen a post the other day and it was just funnier than hell. Michael Martin, a friend of mine, posted, I blocked someone today because they corrected my grammar, and it felt awesome. So
yeah, I mean, you ask anybody too, Dad, you ask any person that's like got a massive following, and one of the first things they'll tell you to do is hire somebody to go through your comments and give you the ones that you should respond to and eliminate all the ones that you don't. Because I think it's so hard, because what ends up happening is, just as this is named, right? Like, the words that people say are insignificant and matter until you say them to yourself. And you're saying them to yourself as you're reading them, or you're reading them out loud. And so if those words don't end up in your mind or in your your stratosphere or whatever, then it's not part of your day-to-day communication with yourself. But when you read negative stuff all day or respond to negative stuff all day, I sent Craig and my dad this video of this professional troll, right? It's funny because all day it's a joke.
I never believed that there was such thing as a professional troll.
Well, of course it's a joke, but still it's funny because it's so true. This dude's
I
got
don't
like
think
5
it is.
laptops set up, right? And he's like, this woman just graduated astrophysics, and she posted some type of paper. He goes on, this is not how gravity works. Women aren't smart, or whatever. And immediately by him typing that everyone's going to get upset and pissed at him, right? And he's like, I love it because I get all their energy, right? They bring it all to me. Instead of going to something positive, I get all their energy. And he's like, I just love it. And then there's this other part where it's like this comment, and this person's like, what you just said is racist. And he looks at the camera and he's like, yep, exactly it is. It just goes to show that the people that are posting this stuff most of the time actually are just doing it for that energy. And that's the truth of it. They're not really they just want someone to engage with them. Maybe they're in pain or something.
It's a certain way to get attention.
Right. So true.
What about that troll that we had a little while ago, Robert, that was talking specifically about what you were doing, what the guy with the YouTube channel. Okay, accept it. And what did we do? Moved on.
I wouldn't actually call that. Yeah. I wouldn't call that guy a troll even. I would say,
it's like, if we don't give him any energy or any it's hard to be a debater if you don't have someone to debate with.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
and that's how important words are.
Yeah. The ripples that you make, no matter what you do, are going to cause, crashes, and then they're going to cause, momentum. So what ends up happening is, the larger you get in anything that you do, you're going to have people that are going to go, this is not okay. You should not be doing this. Right. It's funny because I just saw a clip before I got on here of Quentin Tarantino talking to Howard Stern. And Howard Stern was like, there's just no way you can make Django Unchained today. And he's like, bet your ass I could. He's like, because the elements that exist that you said people were going to complain about then exist now. Even if the climate is different, it still doesn't change the fact that I'm bringing it up as a conversation, and people remember the conversations they have about art. They might not remember the opinions that people have about it, but they'll remember the conversations that art sparks. And I thought, what a great way of explaining, sharing things with others.
Look at the Mel Brooks movies too. I mean, Blazing Saddles is one. I mean, could he remake something like that today?
Yeah,
maybe not in the same
Monty
way.
Python, you got Life of Brian.
How I think we talked about this before. Why is blackface such an awful thing, unless you bring up Robert Downey Jr.'s name?
Oh, you're talking about like
Right.
Tropic Thunder, right?
Tropic Thunder, right.
Well, I think just like Dave Chappelle before in doing like his skits and stuff, when you're being satirical and you're making points about just how stupid it is, he's in blackface in that movie as a satire to old Hollywood, which used to do that all the time.
Right.
Right? It's satirical in the fact that, oh, instead of just getting a really incredible black actor, what we'll do is we'll just take a mediocre white actor and give them blackface, and then they'll take the role, right? Because we don't want to give anyone that's of color any roles. That's how they were back then. I mean, I love Breakfast at Tiffany's. Every single time I watch it, I have to deal with Mickey Rooney's performance as a Japanese guy, and it's cringe every time I watch it. Still a great movie though, but it's there. So
Matt, just a question for you. What are some words that you said to yourself in the past that were very detrimental to you that you can now hindsight look back at and go,
great
what
question.
the hell?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of words of like mostly delay, like, okay, I need this to get to this. Like I used to have a very big communication with myself every single time I wanted to do something big, and it was like, how many boxes do I have to check before I get to do this big thing? It's like having a checklist before you travel, right?
Right.
You're like, I got my toothpaste, I got my toothbrush. I used to have word conversations with myself and even journal going, here's the things that I need to do before I get to do the thing that I really want to do.
Wow.
And some people may see that as like, okay, you're productive, you're getting this stuff done. But this was actually stuff that I felt like I needed to learn in the process to not have to collaborate with others. And as I've gotten older and wiser, I realized most great things come from collaboration. So I stopped doing all the wording of you need to learn this or that. And now the words are, you need to find someone who really excels at this.
Great.
And get them attached to your vision, right? So, I mean, I would throw that question right back at you, Dad, and then Craig can do it too. But that was mine. Like just really having those conversations with myself about the fact that I needed to do so much before I got to do what I wanted to do.
My words is from the time that I can remember hearing words. I knew that I was going to be a blue collar worker because I didn't have the intelligence to be a white collar worker.
Ooh.
That was for the people that were smart enough that went to big colleges and got degrees. So being a blue collar worker, I knew that I needed to be good working with my hands and figuring out problems that dealt with mechanical issues. And that for that reason, a blue collar worker always worked for somebody. See, blue collar workers are never smart enough to own their own business because that takes a degree.
Yeah. These are all like limiting beliefs that people say.
Yeah.
Right.
And I grew up around a bunch of them and they all said it. And I believed every word of it. I believed every word of it until I ran out of options. So when a doctor told me, you're not going to be that kind of blue collar worker anymore, you're not going to be a mechanic, I believed those words, which were bullshit. What right did that guy have to say, man, you're not going to be a mechanic anymore, better find something else to do? Holy shit. Someone with a white coat that was one of those white collar people that were professionals knew more than me and knew I no longer could be a mechanic. Now I'd like to find him and buy him whatever he wanted as a gift for saying that to me, because that's the day that my identity died and made me humble myself so I could reinvent and create myself into something new.
That's a deep, seriously, because I think in those types of situations, having conversations from someone of authority, especially if you've been raised, like you said, your whole life to respect their intelligence. And it's so interesting because we'll watch movies like Rocky, and I know you like a lot of these films, but the underdog story. And it's like every single time you have someone say this can't be done, most of the time they're like lacking a fundamental part in understanding how things are done, which is like the human spirit of wanting to get things done. Because there's analytical reasons why things wouldn't
Yeah.
work. It's like he's maybe looking at you and going, there's no way he's going to barely walk or run, let alone be able to move around easily.
Right.
So my analytical process is you need to figure out something else to do. And this is something that people say a lot about doctors, right? That it's like their responses sometimes are non-emotional, and that's why they have nurses, right? Because a lot of the people that are in nursing are very emotional people, in tune with people's emotions. And that has been my situation with nurses most of the time. My situation with doctors, I've only met a couple that are actually like normal people. Not that it's a bad thing, because I want someone that's thorough there doing it.
Yeah.
But
Well, we talk about words. Words are so powerful because it's not only things that we think and say about ourselves, but the power of being able to tell a story, a power of to be able to say a joke that may offend or make a whole audience laugh until they're crying. Those are all not only timing, but patterns of words that you use, sort of like a wordsmith, that you get to use words to make them go through a series of emotions that anchor something. So a person, show me the money, it's like, Quan, it's like these things, whether they're made up words or not, that we all get to hang our hat on. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, build it and they will come. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like a lot of people, I heard this just recently, that I guess Kevin Costner, and sort of appreciation to, am I saying his name right? Ray Liotta or whatever.
Ray
Ray
Liotta.
Liotta.
Yeah, I know that he's probably already passed a few months ago, if not even a year ago. But the voice that you hear in Field of Dreams is Ray's. So people, he brought it up because the guy that wrote the original story of what made that script so powerful is that, man, this chokes me up, because when he said it, it really got me. But it was, the father knew the son was unhappy with him. And so his dream as a person in the spirit realm was that if you do this, he'll come back and there'll be that connection. So, throughout the show, when people are saying, did you hear it? There was only a couple of people that followed him. And if you remember, when the little girl got knocked off the seats, and she sort of got a concussion, and you could tell that she was hurt. When she came up, now she's a different person because she hit her head, and she said, Daddy, they'll definitely come. And they're all looking at her like, what? Now, they'll come. Everybody's going to come.
I mean, those are like the goosebumps moments that you work for,
man.
like when you're telling a story, or even you brought up jokes, right? A lot of that is knowing the right words and paths to say, to elicit those feelings and to bring those things. And I think whether it's positive or negative, it's something that not a lot of us think about when we communicate with one another, how much our words actually matter.
Thank you.
Whether it goes back to you, someone saying you're great with your hands, you could be a mechanic, right? Even all the way back then to now, right? Like every single time we think, oh, can we do YouTube, or would this be a right path? It's like, absolutely, right? Because we're now speaking those words to ourselves. So with that said, Craig, do you want to answer that question as well? What are some words that you struggled with?
Oh my gosh. And
tormented you, or
no, I still struggle, honestly.
Sure.
It's a constant struggle. But it's, Melody put it so well in the chat here. The words that we say to ourselves are the most important. And I was saying words, what if, but, can't, things like that. And I don't know if I can do it.
Right.
Oh my God.
I love how people say, nah, this is not for me.
Yeah, there's another set of words. This is not for me.
I don't know what you do, but this is definitely not for me.
Or yeah, exactly. And it goes to, I mean, Bruce Lee says it, you hear every word you say. Or if you
Right.
want to go to another quote that we always put out there, especially during your lives every day at noon, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. Now, some people may have the disposition to do things a certain way or better maybe than others,
Right.
but it doesn't stop you from doing what you want if you want it bad enough. And okay, we look at somebody like a Joshua Daramella. Oh my gosh, talk about somebody who has taken words and said, you know what? I can do this. I can.
Right.
Oh my God.
Right.
Now, and he's in a place where he gets beat up. He, in the figurative sense,
Yeah.
gets beat up every single day because of where he lives, not in the greatest country in the world, in one of the poorest countries in the world. And what does he do? He finds a mentor, which you talked about earlier today in the Going Live. He found somebody who he can follow. He changed his stinking thinking. He changed how he felt. He changed how he thought. And he is making a difference in a country where he, under normal circumstances, would not have the opportunity
Right.
because of the culture and the way he was brought up. And that's a big deal too. I know I've mentioned it in podcasts before where up until about the age of 7 years old, it's been shown that if you're consistently beaten up, if you're consistently given bad vibes, if you're consistently knocked down, that's going to affect you for pretty much most of your life.
Right.
And that's why when you raise children, you want to, and in fact, I know in California, I don't know if it's nationwide or not, but there was the First Five program that came out. And the whole point of it was getting your kids to read, write, and create. And how to do that. Why First Five? Because those first 5 years are the impressions that stay with us because our minds are being built. Our minds are being molded into doing things. And if we keep getting hit with negative words,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it totally beats us down. Now, yes, if we can get in those, the first 5, the better the words there, then later on it will not be as hard to go to the next level. But that's not to say that we can't still do that. It just takes
Right.
maybe a little longer.
So I got some words for you, Craig, and I want you to tell people how important you think these words are.
Okay.
Okay. Someone's saying to little Craig, you're the man of the house now.
Oh, exactly. It affects me. It affected me completely.
In both ways. Holy cow.
Oh my gosh. It's like here I am, 7 years old. I'm being told I'm the man of the house. And I see what both my mom and my dad are going through to raise 3 kids. Here I am, only 7 years old. Now, at the time, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, yes, I'm going to be the man of the house. But then when you realize what it's all about,
Wow.
and you understand that there's more to this, and then the pressure that gets put on you, and especially when you haven't even reached, I'm going to say puberty, because then everything changes right there too.
Right.
Um, when you're given that role, those words, it's hard. And you have to live up to those words, and you have to live up to them not only as a 7-year-old, but 8, 9, 10, 13, 18, 21, and you still have to keep moving forward based on that concept that you were
with those words, how do you think that affected you if someone said, so Craig, how was your childhood? Do you believe that you even had one?
Not as much as I hear other people. I will say that, I mean, I still had what I feel, especially given today, was a good childhood. I didn't have a father at those times.
Right.
Could I have been a better person than who I am because of that? Very possible. I am who I am because of who I am and how I was raised. But I could I have been better? Maybe. Could I have been worse? Maybe.
Yeah, that ends up getting into the butterfly effect. I don't,
Yeah.
like I think no matter what your experience is, it always comes down to how you view it. And it's the same
Right.
with words. Sorry about the dogs, but it's the same with words. It's very much perspective based. And it's like, and Dad, you've talked about this, right?
Yes.
And
Mhm.
Craig, you
Yes.
have as well. But it's like, okay, you get older, you get wiser, and you start looking back not with as much anger, hopefully, or
Right.
disdain for mistakes you made or mistakes other people have made in your life.
Yeah.
And you start looking at them as wisdom, things to not only learn from, but to share with younger people or to share with others, so they don't have to go through the exact same shit that you did, right? And it's like if you could have
Exactly.
talked to yourself at that time, Craig, it's like you don't have to have the weight of the world on your shoulders. You can still be both of those things. But when you're that young and you're being shaped in that way, I think it makes it very hard to like think of anything outside of that, right? So
Yeah.
you just end
Yeah,
up
I remember,
in it.
and when you hang around people that that really ask themselves all the time, is this really true? If what
Mhm.
you know isn't so, when would you like to know?
Or how do you know
Because
that?
yeah,
Right.
that's when I started hanging around people that didn't believe in the struggle, like I talked about in the video today. They're like, no, there's definitely resistance, but resistance is just simply whether or not you want it bad enough. Not everyone can lift their weight over their head. In fact,
Mhm.
less than 1%. But there are people that lift their weight and more over their head.
Right.
Was there resistance? Yes. But there also was this thing that people don't get in life, where why do someone climb a mountain? Why does someone want to be a billionaire? Um, it was part of the quest. It was there. It was just there. So that's why other people don't understand it, because there's got to be a meaning behind it. There's got to be a reason why to climb the mountain. Um, Not really. Not really. It's just someone told me that there was 5 tall mountains in the world, and there was very few people that have ever climbed all 5.
You know what's interesting about what you're saying too is that there's been such a massive shift in what that is, right? Because like I think you may say that this is social media or like the more modern times that we live in, but it's like I just saw an article not too long ago. The amount of people that hire Sherpas and go up Mount Everest now is like insane,
Yeah.
right? It's more than there's ever been. It's never been safer to do it because there's so many guardrails. It's still dangerous. People still die up there. You still have to train for it. But they've almost commercialized something that was a personal goal for someone else back in the day.
Isn't it
And it's
cool?
really interesting. Well, it's an interesting thought because now are you climbing Mount Everest as a personal goal because you see it as a mountain to climb, or are you climbing it to tell other people that you've climbed Mount Everest? And
Ah.
it's a
Oh,
really interesting difference and duality in the way that things are now and used to be, because I do believe that we have such, like, talking about words, we have such a control problem with other people sharing our story. We want to be in control of what our story is. When if
mhm.
you look through history and you look at the reality of the situation, odds are you're not going to be the one that definitively gets to tell your story. Somebody else is,
Wow.
right? After whether you're long
If
gone
it's
or
if
it's
it's
your
told
friends
at
or
all.
family.
If it's told at all.
Yes.
Exactly, right? So it's you see biopics or certain things come out every single year, movies or whatever about certain celebrities, and they'll go, the one about Napoleon just came out, and they'll go, that didn't really happen that way. And then Ridley Scott came out and he's like, well, I just thought it would make a better movie if that's the way that it happened. Right. And it's like, yeah, but we're dealing with real history though. Yeah, but he's the one that gets to tell this story. He's the one that has the money. He's the one that has the time. So he's going to tell it the way he feels he wants to. This is the same guy that made Gladiator. So it's like, he's not exactly rigid in how things work history-wise, right? He's in that Tarantino world of like, I'll make it entertaining even if it's not reality. Which I'm totally fine with, because that's how storytelling works. You talked about Whisper Down the Lane, Dad. That's exactly the way that it works. How many here believe, and this is a how do you know that statement, that Napoleon was a short person?
Yeah, they told us in school.
That's exactly
total and complete bullshit, of course.
Yeah.
Not short, totally normal size. Everything's apparently normal,
Come on, the reason he killed so many people is because he had the Napoleon complex. They even came up with a word for it.
Right. Yeah. And that's interesting, right? When you think about that, because you could
the internet said so,
you could have a whole entire monarchy that grows and grows and grows and wins and takes over land and does all these things. But hundreds of years into the future, we're the ones that get to tell this story, and we get to tell it any way that we want. And in some versions of that story, even in curriculums, he's short. So that's how it's told, right? Because the winners get to tell the stories, not the losers.
Right.
But it's an interesting concept when we're talking about words, because when you talk about self goals or the way you say things to yourself, I think it always comes back to that, like, how do I want to tell my own story? Right. And like, not only just letting go of that, but also accepting that you are the only one that gets to tell it to yourself. So don't let other people tell you how your story is.
Matt, the dump the download that I just got when you said that is this one. So when your story is told, is your story going to be that you didn't do the things you were supposed to because fill in the fucking blank?
Depends on who's telling your story, because it's subjective. Because you can have people that conquered and did great things for humanity, but were awful spouses and parents. Just not great at all with relationships, but they changed the world, right? And to one person, they might go, I strive to be someone that puts a dent in the universe in the same way this person did. And then in another person's life that doesn't care about that, but cares about family and cares about your children's love and care and respecting your spouse, they would look at that person and go, they accomplished great things, but they failed at the most important thing in life. And that's so subjective. And that's why I say you get to tell your own story, right?
Right.
Because that is the truth. So I don't know.
You could say that about anything. You could say that about anything, and it could go, okay, and I'm going to step on some toes when I say religion.
Yep.
That was the first image that came up, Matt, when you were talking about this. I mean, no disrespect to the religions that are out there, but how do you know? Again, and I have very good friends here that are of a variety of religions. Do we know that Jesus said that, did that? Didn't he have struggles? He did.
At the end, he did.
Yes. Major struggle.
According to the story.
According to the story. Okay.
And that's subjective, right?
Exactly.
Still.
Now, does that mean that you should believe it or not? That's up to you. Those are the words that were imprinted upon you. Were those the same words that were imprinted upon me, upon Matt, upon Robert, upon the people that you are with? Maybe
because you can go to one church, just like you're saying,
right?
Craig, you can go to one church and Noah's Ark really happened, right?
Exactly.
And then you go to another church and it's a parable, it's a story about survival and rebirth and all of these different things, right? So that's a total different interpretation. Some people believe Noah's Ark really happened, and some people believe that it's a parable for, like the things I just described, right?
Right.
Inner stuff. And that's what stories really, in my opinion, are, whether they're real or not. So it's like, it doesn't need to be real for you to learn from it. But at the same time, some people absolutely take it as reality, right?
Exactly.
And you got to respect those people too. But at the same time, that's not my reality. So
one of the things
Exactly.
one of the things that I've always tried to do in connecting and building relationships with people is I've always been fascinated by I've been to temples, I've been to kingdom halls. Some of you that know the religions know where I'm talking about. And it's amazing synagogues. I try to befriend everyone and I try to find out, and they usually end up inviting me. I'll usually say, listen, how do you worship? Where do you go? And so in all the different places that I've been where a person was appointed as the person that was in front talking about whatever they're talking about, there's some places where the message made me feel depressed. And then another group that claimed that they believe in the same stuff. And I've gone there and I felt like I was walking on a cushion of air.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That I was so uplifted and optimistic about who I was, where I was, and what was going to happen in the future. That's pretty interesting that you can have two different storytellers and so-called the same belief and get different feelings.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's the words, right?
It's the words, the power
It is
of the words.
Mm-hmm.
Why is there, okay, let's go to the Eastern religions too. Obviously, there are people that believe in the Hindu faith. There are people who believe Buddha. There's the Jainists, just to mention a few of the, and there, this is where is religion so important? It can be to the individual if it helps with their moral compass. Okay.
Right.
But as it relates to you, me, and the other people, how important is that? Just because this person happens to be Buddhist, this person happens to be Hindu, this person happens to be Christian, Jewish, whatever. Why can't you understand the fact that this is how they are and accept that? And I know we've kind of brought that up in the past too, in previous podcasts. But it is, and it's the words that come together that shape what it is, how we were raised, how we were brought up. And Robert, you've shared, that you've been, I don't want to say the word indoctrinated, but you've experienced, that's the word, experienced other faiths in the way that you were raised, yet you still have an incredible following.
Yeah. And it's only because I believe that I have a following because I'm okay with coming from the point of not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I always tell people all the time, if you ever want to discuss religion or any kind of beliefs of any kind, the people that scare me the most are the people that believe without a shadow of a doubt that they know. Those are the scariest freaking people for me on the planet, because you might not look at yourself this way, but that's where you get the fanatics on every side. Is there's no gray. Everything's black and white. And if you don't think the way and do the things that I do, then there's really no reason for you to be on this planet. That's pretty fanatic.
Well, it's like the control of the story thing. It's like I want to tell my story, and since you're involved in it, then therefore you need to adhere to my story that I want to tell.
Yeah.
Instead of just going, hey, they're their own storyteller. They're doing what they want to do with their lives. And religion is a really interesting topic as far as words go, because every single new version of the words just bring a whole new denomination of it. So it's just you're like, hey,
look
these
how
words
many
were said
interpretations the same phrasing from the Bible, whether it's the Old or the New Testament or the Quran or whatever book you follow, has different meanings to different people.
Right. Yeah, no, like you can have an incredible Oscar nominated film like District 9 that's about apartheid South Africa, and some people might see it as a dumb alien movie. I had to make it. It came to me, so I had to say it.
They're definitely words. They're definitely words.
Right. Yeah, that's funny.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to do a quick shout out to James Saunders for being a super chatter 3 times. I
Thank
don't
you,
know.
Oh,
James.
thank you, James.
So,
Yes.
you
Thank
know,
you.
1999, 999, 499. So I guess James just wanted to be in on every level. And
Get in
he
where you fit
usually,
in, you know?
yeah, he
It's everywhere,
usually
every
is. So
level.
thank you, James. I
Thank you,
love
James.
and appreciate you. Okay, so let's turn the subject um, to thoughts or words that we said about ourselves that we figured out later wasn't true. So you guys know that, one of the things of me being able to tell people everything that I've gone through, what are some words? Because, we hear this in every situation. I know when I watch documentaries, isn't it amazing? And I find it fascinating and amazing that the 1 or 2 words that someone could say during a person's journey to just set them on the path. It was
Right.
so, of course, I found the silver lining and the doctor telling me I'd never be a mechanic again. But the 9 months prior to me getting involved with someone, like Melody said, you get to do this. You don't have to do this. You get to do
Right.
this. It's that change in perception and belief. What has been some ones for both of you guys where someone said something like my uncle said to me, you're really good with your hands. The oil field is not going to be around forever. You should go to a tech school and because you're so natural with it, you'll breeze through this, but then they'll give you this piece of paper that everyone will find valuable where you can get a job anywhere in the world. And, I think this is probably the first time that Matt or Craig heard me tell that he did say a little more, right? And I just got to thinking, wow, it's like the oil field's right here. The oil field's right here. You know what I mean? Being a mechanic or being an automotive engineer, you pretty much can work anywhere.
It's
And
true.
for him to stretch my thoughts and my horizons enough for me to focus for just a few years to pull that off is what allowed me to be able to do some incredible opportunities. I don't believe that I would have went to California if I didn't get 3 job offers there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And a mentor, Professor Bitts, to say, well, I'm waiting on the offer because I know that one of them is going to offer me money to be able to pay for my expenses to move. So out of the 73, who wants you more?
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to pay
Now
for
you get to negotiate. It's
Yeah.
like a draft or something.
You don't know that you don't know.
Right.
You don't know that you don't know. And so, either one of you can go first.
No,
Craig, why don't you
Craig.
go
Yeah,
ahead?
why don't you go first?
It's hard to say because it's a process for me.
Right.
I'm going to say that part of it is you, Robert, because of opening up my mind. And now I've always had what I felt was an open mind. But
I
did.
remember you back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also had limiting beliefs.
Thank you, Craig.
No,
Yeah.
but it's because, okay, and I know Melody even put to here, are you better because of in the chat? And Melody, wow, between you and Melody and how you have affected Melody, who has affected me, how you have affected me over the years, it's opened me up even more. I felt I was still, even before meeting you, pretty open-minded.
Got it.
Okay. But there was a limiting belief inside of me that was still holding me back. And the fact that I'm able to say, you know what, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. And even though I had mentors, I had father figures back then who would say, okay, here's where you got to do, here's what you got to, things like this, still was not quite the open mind because I still had those limiting beliefs in.
Yeah.
And yes, I accomplished certain things. I was an A student. I became an Eagle Scout. I did a lot of the things that everybody told me to do,
Right.
or that I felt that I needed to do to get to this certain level. And yes, I brought up the 40-40-40 plan. Well, how
Yeah.
many of us have even thought of the 40-40-40 plan, especially those of us who are of the boom generation, the baby boom generation? Fine, hey, let's go to work for 40 years, 40 hours a week. We're going to get maybe 40% of our paycheck, but everything will be taken care of after everything is gone.
I
The
was gonna say
gold watch.
that 40%
Yeah,
used to mean a lot more than it does now. So,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. And it's opening up your eyes and your mind and saying, okay, there's a phrasing that I've seen used before where the word impossible. Well, what's wrong with changing the word impossible to saying I'm possible? When you think about the spelling.
Those are cool shifts.
Exactly.
When I first heard that, job stood
Just
for
over broke.
just over broke, I was just like, what? How dare you? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, no, I'm going to work my 40-40-40.
Yeah.
I
I'm
want
on
my retirement and I'm
on
going to
the path.
live. No problem.
Yeah, I get to
Yeah,
live
no.
to my golden years and everything's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I think
Exactly.
that's the disconnect right now with the younger generation is they know that that's never going to be their reality. So it's
Right.
like you're kind of working, 60 hours.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
you're you're doing even more, right? Knowing that the 40% not only is not going to be there, but that odds are you're probably not going to last the 40 years either at the rate that people get worked and stuff. They definitely don't. I don't know anyone young that goes boating on the weekends and fishes. They sleep to recover on the weekends. So I think it's really interesting because you sharing that stuff, Craig. I think it's similar to the things that I had in self-talk, and it's really like not necessarily what um stopped me from doing things, but it was more like as people were saying you need to do this or that, or those barriers were there,
Mhm.
I kind of was doing that myself, right? And so when I
Right.
think of like other people that have affected me, obviously, my dad has changed my paradigms quite a few times through
Love
my
you.
life in great
You
ways. Love you
and
too.
you've done that for me.
Yeah, well, I think that that's why our relationship is so good still. And I think as you look through your life and you see these certain periods of time that just are right place, right time perspectives for me, there's no bigger one, no bigger catalyst in like who I am today than meeting my wife of almost 10 years. She changed my life quite a bit because she forced me to shift the paradigm of like um I was so like rigid in the way that I thought and did things. And it was more of like a safety thing, right? Like it was
Mhm.
more of like if I didn't release emotions outside of the protective negative emotions, then there's nothing really for you to attack, right? There's nothing really for you to go, "Oh, there's something wrong with you, this or that or whatever."
I'm not gonna show my weakness.
Yeah, so when you fall in love
Oh
with
my
someone, and
gosh.
especially
Yeah.
when you're like close with this person, they're going to know all your flaws and all your faults and all these things, and they're okay with it, at least to a certain extent. In the Twitter pated stage, definitely. But as we got older and we got married, she was 19, I was 22. So we got married and kind of grew up together, right? As adults. She's had to challenge my paradigms a lot in how I communicate and share with others because she's such an emotional core person,
Right.
right? And
Mhm.
I am so analytical. So before, I was missing such a large part of the words that I would use, how I would talk to people. I was missing that emotional core, I would say, because I lacked growing it,
Yeah.
right? Because in my mind, I always wanted to be like those people like Elon Musk or whatever. I'm like, I'm going to accomplish all these big things. I'm going to change the world. I'm smart. I'm going to invent things. I'm going to do these things. But every single time I started to go in that direction, I'm like, those words are not my own,
Good.
right? They're
Yeah.
not my own. And that's maybe something, Craig, you can relate with, is you kind of get to an age or a stage where you're like, man, are these words even mine? How long have I been saying this shit to myself?
Exactly. Exactly.
You
And
know?
I did this because it's yin and yang. You know,
Right. And my
we
dad's
have
forced that.
I thought you
Yeah.
were putting together the energy Powerball, and you were gonna.
oh, from Dragon Ball Z, yes.
Yeah,
Boom.
But right.
No,
But
it
it
is
really,
Hannah has brought out in you the same way that hopefully your partner, whoever that partner happens to be, would bring out in you the
yeah.
yin and yang of looking at the other another perspective of things. I
yeah.
mean, you only have your own perspective.
Yeah.
And
Right.
why
And
and why someone would ever say anything to you to make you think that you're not okay with who you are. See, it's pretty weird, isn't it? That we got to be so vulnerable and so raw that we can allow other people to say, your version of who you are is not okay.
What
And it's
gives
yeah,
like,
you the right to
Hannah
say
why
that?
can't
definitely,
why
right,
can't
right,
you
right.
just love me? Why can't you just love me for who I am? Well, listen, you're being destructive to yourself and others. You know what I mean? Because of the way you think and the way you act and the way you converse and the way you connect. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, listen, I'm okay with who I am. You're
Mhm.
attacking me, and this is me. It doesn't have to be you.
Well, it's interesting because if you care about the person and you respect their opinion like I do with yours, Dad or Craig or my wife or my mom or other close people to me, when you have someone say this, the way that you go about things affects me in this way, and you're hearing their words instead
Yeah,
of not listening to them and hearing your own words, what you want to hear, right? You
yeah,
start listening and hearing what other people are saying, and they're like, you're kind of fucking deficit in this by quite a bit. You
yeah.
may excel in these other areas, and it goes back to what I said
Mhm.
earlier, right? You might excel at certain things but lack in others. And I
Right.
think all of my younger brother, I would say, is he's a lot more like analytical, but I would always say he's way more emotional than me,
Yeah,
right? Both my brothers were growing up. And
yeah,
so I just use that as like, oh, come on, just get over it. Like, I'm not an emotional person. Not realizing that me not being emotional was actually like very self-destructive to not only my image of myself, but having to control what other people's images of me was.
Mhm.
And it took Hannah and my family and everything to really like sit down with me over growing up and go like, dude, you're kind of an asshole in some of these situations. You're not emotional. You're not thinking about the damage of what you're saying or what you're doing. And like, think about the emotional impact of how you're going about things. And as I grew and listened to those words, oh my God, my self communication got so much better. I'm so much healthier. It had nothing, it's insane because you think, okay, I'm going to be who I am, right? But this goes into maybe a subject that we can branch into, which is self talk, the words you tell
Oh
yourself,
my
and
gosh.
how much that reflects on the things you say to others. Like, how much that opinion, if you're getting on and saying negative things, how much odds are you're probably doing that to yourself. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy behavior. And
totally.
so for me to be unemotional to others and how I was doing business and how I was doing everything also meant that I lacked emotion from myself. And all this caused was just a domino effect of like mental exhaustion and blow up, right? Where it's
Right.
like at some point I had to deal with the emotions or the weight of the things that I was dealing with. And instead of dealing with them when they happened and having good positive self-talk, I just waited till they just bottled over and just tipped over completely and then
And
had to
it
rebuild
affected everybody.
everything. Right. Affected my family, everybody. I had kind of like a mental breakdown from all the work and all the things I was doing, all the
Right.
stress I was adding on to myself. And to come out of that as the person I am now, I attribute that to the people around me quite a bit,
Mhm.
because I think that has so much to do with it. And I just wasn't listening to their words before. I was
Right.
Look,
wanting to control my own story instead of, you know,
yeah. It's
so
interesting because you bring that up, and then I opened up this Melody Ryba, and I wanted to bring this up. And Matt, thank you for transitioning into this because
yeah.
it's so perfect. She came up with a small treatise, paper, however you want to put it, called "The Power of Words." And part of the section here that she talks about self-talk words we use that affect our moods and everything in our day. We are not the only ones affected, but it affects others in our lives, our families, our peers, and even our coworkers. And the challenge that she gives as part of this paper is to remove certain words from our vocabulary. Now, that what I'm going to say is a caveat is certain words or these are important words that you need to be aware of
Right.
because maybe sometimes one of the first words she puts up is can't. Well, you can't do it right now, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it.
Right.
Melody, if you're, I know you're in the chat, and I hope that's what you mean by this, because it just means that, all right, don't make that as a word that is consistently used by yourself. It just means that it's not available to you at this point in time, but that doesn't mean that you can't or cannot do it.
I'll figure it
Right.
out.
I'll figure it out.
I'll
Right.
figure this out a little bit at a time. I'll figure this out.
Yeah. Some other
Sure.
words that she puts out in this little paper: but, should, maybe, sooner or later, someday, never, won't, if, try, or I'll try. 10, 10, little small little paragraphs on words that are just they hold so much power and so much influence
Right.
over us. And
Yeah.
I'll make sure to post this in the chat so that people can find it and
I have
see
it
it.
up on the screen right now. So we'll post, but thank you so much, Melody, for writing this out and sharing it with everybody. You're amazing. So
Absolutely.
the power in words.
Yeah. And Melody has experienced. Okay, I'm going to speak on Melody's behalf. Melody has experienced this. She and I've had lots of talks about this. And Robert, you have been a major influence in helping her change her words, changing her thinking, changing the way that she looks at things. And what happened because of that? She became one of your millionaires.
Yeah.
One of your people who consistently refers back to you. I would love to have Melody on here to talk more about this.
Yeah.
And I hope we get that opportunity very soon. Yes, Melody, I'm calling you out. It's because I care. And talk about somebody who has taken your words and learned.
Literally taken the things that my mentors taught me and she took them to heart. And the thing that I'm most impressed with Melanie is, again, when we would talk, I know there's a lot of interviews out there, me talking to her. You guys can search for them. But the number of times that Melody had told people that, there was times that I didn't make her feel very good. There was times that I called her out on what I believed at that time was some of her bullshit, self-sabotaging speech, and it would make her cry. She would be mad at me. She would hang up on me. It took me a while. We sort of make a general statement about individuals. It's like we were talking about with blackface, right? It's like I know the way that my mentors corrected me. One of the things that I consistently did that was very self-sabotaging is I wouldn't give me a pat on the back for anything. I just wouldn't. If I achieved anything, a rank or a certain amount of money per month. I would never ever give myself any credit or pat myself on the back because I still dropped the ball so much. So I could hit super, but I didn't hit master. You know what I mean? I
Mm.
I could have
So you
worked
always
hard.
move the goalpost like
Oh
further
my
and further
God.
away
Yeah.
from.
And I talk about a very uncomfortable place in an airport where my mentor is saying that he's going to punch me in the face if I didn't get out of his face, because I would never give myself credit. I would never ever pat myself on the back for doing anything.
Well,
And
it's not like anyone taught you how to do that. I think that that's
yeah,
something that, I was lucky enough to have in my upbringing where it's like you win an award, let's go celebrate type of thing.
yeah,
And if you're not taught that or you've never had that in your childhood, like you absolutely have to give that to yourself. You have to figure that out because it's so important, right?
yeah. I still think for me personally, if I was going to give anyone a thought, is just what if you really truly don't know everything about anything?
Hmm.
What if you could actually get back to that age where everything was a aha moment? Everything. You seen a tree, you seen an animal, it's that's why I think traveling is so important. One time, my granddaughter and grandson, Olive and Ryder, came and spent 4th of July with us. And so what we did all as a family was we packed up the vehicle and drove up to the highest point, up by Cook City. And there's snow there 24 hours a day, all year round. You're so high. It's like it's almost 11,000 feet. And so all of a sudden you go up there, and we went through where all the water's coming out of the mountains all the time. And, you're standing on the edge of rocks watching this water come out of the mountains at like 100 miles an hour. And it's so loud, you can't hear yourself think. You can't even talk to the person next to you. And you're just looking at it and just going, man, I'm small.
Yeah, well, I was even watching that Alex Hermosi video before we got on here. He
What
did
was you
like a
watching?
Alex Hermosi, and he was doing
Oh,
it. He does
yeah.
this like blog, and he was saying that he thinks the best when he's on a plane, because when he's on a plane, not only is there nothing else to do most of the time but think, unless if you want to try to entertain yourself, but it also immediately, as the plane's taking off and gets higher and higher, gives you a perspective. It gives you a perspective that you rarely get to see, which
Yeah.
is how big everything is and how small you are. And that perspective is massive in like your ego, like keeping yourself in check and going, I want to accomplish a lot, but I don't want to demolish people or things to get to there. I want to
Yeah.
lift people up. I want to take care of them. And I think that's just as important with your words, right? Because you can have certain people that have led great innovations and great things, but they did it with bad words, right? Like they did
Yeah.
it in a
Uh-huh.
negative way that affected people, and it's like the greater good thing, so to speak. It's like
I,
a,
I'm sure I'm sure this can be found online. There was this episode um, that Barbara Walters did, and I think it was like, "Is there God or is there heaven?"
Mhm.
And what she did in an interview is she found the most thought after spiritual religious leaders of virtually every kind.
like the
And
Dalai Lama and the
yeah,
Pope.
and she interviewed them. And so I love when she went to the Dalai Lama and she said, so you're the most holy one. And his smile, and he looked at her and he said, yeah, that's what they say. You know what I mean? And she goes, well, according to your religion, you're perfect. And he goes, and that's why I got glasses. And then she sort of giggled and she said, he goes, you know how perfect I am? I have no idea where I'm going after this. So people ask me what's going to happen in the future. I have people that follow me around that are paid. to get me to the next place I need to be because I don't know where I'm going.
And that's just been his whole life. You know?
Yeah.
So, so a bunch of people walked out in a little village and walked into the tent and went, this is the guy, this little baby right here. This is the one. And she even asked him, is it okay for me to touch you? You know what I mean? I heard that, some people you're not allowed to touch them. He goes, you want a hug? I'll give you a hug. You know what I mean? Would that be better? And so what I love most about the interviews with the majority of the people is when she pressed them, is your belief in the way you believe the only way? And virtually every one of them said no. No, they did not say no. They said, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And there was one evangelical Christian. He was the only one that said, my way is the only way. The other 7 billion are dying. and I'm not I'm not telling you I'm for or against Christianity. I just found that the opposite. If a Christian was wearing a bracelet saying, what would Jesus do? I just had the belief at that millisecond, if Barbara Walters was interviewing Jesus, I think he would have acted like the other 4 or 5 people that were there. Mm-hmm. To be honest, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think, I mean, I'll have to look those up because I do remember those, I think what's so interesting about the I don't know question is not only does it get you out of a lot of shitty debates that you shouldn't be having anyways, because I mean, what are they for? They're self-serving, but
no, they're people get a payoff from division.
Well, that's why I'm saying it's self-serving. It's
self-serving.
More so you walk away from the debate saying, I said what I wanted.
Yeah, tell me really quick what you believe so I can disagree.
Yeah, well, it's funny because when you said all those leaders and stuff, I remember over the last few years, right? Like Catholicism has a new pope. This pope comes out and says a lot of radical, crazy things. Like if you're a good person and an atheist, you'll still end up in heaven.
Why?
Like, or if you're gay or something like that and you're a great person to do great things, you'll still end up in heaven.
What?
And so he starts saying some of these things, right? And people go, that's not the way it's always been.
Yeah, but he recently said that he believes that women should be in the pulpit. Oh, my God. Don't you know the last people we need telling us what to do is women?
That's why it's so interesting, because it's like in the whole entire process of it, if you're in Catholicism, right? And you're looking at this and you're going, well, this wasn't the way I was raised. This isn't the way it's always been, right? Change is inevitable. It's so interesting how the belief disconnects really fast, because if the Pope comes out and says something that you don't believe in, even though he's supposed to be the holiest of the holy, right? Chosen by God, then at that point, you're saying that person isn't. And then at that point, then where do you go, right?
There's a crack.
Because he also picks all the people that...
There's a crack.
Right. He also picks the people that you confess to. He picks the people all the way down. He's the leader of the organization in a sense. So
we know he's the one because the smoke came out of the chimney.
Yeah.
The white smoke came out. The angels made the white smoke come out.
and
this is serious stuff here. Just because you're Jewish doesn't mean that we can't have angels come out with some smoke out of a chimney to pick somebody. Come on.
Well, I think that's what's so interesting about religion is I think it always comes back to like my story may not, like, here, let me explain. For the longest time I was an atheist, right? Now I'm more of an agnostic because I do believe in some spiritual things. But before I was like, very anti-religion, mostly because I love history. And the further you go back in history, the more you realize there's coincidences in some of the newer ones that were taken from some of the older ones. And I think as I started to not, as when I was an atheist, right? I used to debate people that were Christian and stuff about their beliefs because I love debating, right? Like I said, I was doing it for myself. I wasn't doing it to explain it to anybody. I was doing it to repeat the things that I believed back to myself so it felt good to hear, right? And it furthered my belief in it in a sense. Like it furthered me, and then I put myself in communities that believe the same. Does this sound familiar to anybody? But I would go, no, it didn't happen this way that you're saying because that book was written by human beings. The way that it really happened was the Big Bang and all of these things that were also written by and viewed by human beings, right? So it always comes back to the I don't know part, and you get to the point where you're like, wait, so science can change all these things too, and I respect and love science. I'm still A+, love science. But at the same time, I can go, there's some shit I've experienced that I kind of can't explain with science. So now where does that leave
Absolutely.
me? And I'm not religious enough to go, oh, this person explained how this works, I'm going to take that. I just live in the I don't know more now, and that's easier and healthier because I go, yeah, this love shit, really great. Don't really know.
Mhm.
Don't really know.
But
'Cause
it
if you would have asked me
feels
before,
good.
yeah, if you would have asked me before, I would have been giving you the normal atheistic answer, right? Like it's for reproduction, it's for just to go to show you guys how I used to be, right? Because I talked about it. It's like, well, it's for reproduction, it's for furthering humanity. Obviously, the Darwinism, the strongest will survive, and that's why you have to reproduce, and some will survive and some won't, and that will make the best version of humanity. And then I actually fall in love, and I'm like, okay, we've been together for almost 10 years. We don't have any children yet. So clearly the reproductive aspect of it is something we're like, let's wait on that and grow up a little bit first. So
Yeah.
really the love aspect didn't automatically then mean that. So then I have to challenge my own beliefs, right? And go, yeah, I'm in love with this person, but it really is so much more than that. It's so much deeper than that as being the reason. So then it starts going, okay, so love affects plants, it affects these other things, it affects the universe, it affects others, we can feel it. Don't really have an explanation for that in the analytical beliefs of why that would
Right.
work that way and why love can be such a powerful force in someone's life, right? That's why I've said if you're
Mhm.
depressed and your life sucks, one of the best pieces of advice I've ever heard is just go volunteer at an animal shelter, go volunteer somewhere with the homeless or anything, and I've done that. But if you do that, you're immediately put in a situation where you're useful and helpful to people that are less advantaged or in a worse position than you. And it's an immediate wake up call, just
Yeah.
like my dad has shared with traveling. It's an immediate wake up call to how you can be useful in a situation and help others. And that love that you give is actually the thing that grows you and builds you as a person. That
And
collaborating
you
with others is necessary.
and you don't know where that comes from either. When you
No.
talk about really having deep appreciation and gratitude and the kind of things that you should be grateful for and love. And when you give to another human being unselfishly, not expecting anything in return, and then it flips on you. It flips on you in a way where you see this unbelievable amount of love and hope that you gave to another human being, that they can actually, for a second or a moment in life, believe that humanity's okay.
Yeah, I saw this video
It's like
today of this guy,
you're the
right?
you're the person that, wait a minute, and everyone's not out for their self and
Mhm.
are an evil person. You know, wow,
Yeah.
there's the helpers, as Mr. Rogers says. There's people that are out there doing stuff that could be anywhere but there.
Yeah.
Anywhere but there, but they choose to be there for that individual in that moment. And that's probably why I love it more than anything.
Mhm.
If there was people that intervened with me, not only in their actions but their words toward me, that gave me hope in humanity and belief that, you know, I am a flawed human being. I'm far from perfect, but someone gave me the analogy that I could put more on one side of the scale than the other. And it wasn't for me to boast that I was doing it. See, that's where giving gets want. If I'm handing $100 to a homeless guy and I got someone videoing it for my YouTube channel, I'm not going to even say something negative against those people, because maybe in their thoughts, they're believing that it will inspire others to do acts of kindness. So I'm not even going to say that I know what their intentions are in doing so, but I do know that there are people that do it to say, hey, look at me. This is what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And I just really, truly believe that we're moving into a world and a change and a lot of perspectives, seeing, multi-billionaires now, tell billion-dollar corporations or trillion-dollar corporations to fuck off. There's this thing that's happening where, one billionaire does it and people might not like him, but then there's other billionaires that people may like or not like Dana White. And so Dana White remembers having Peloton called him up and told him that he had to have a talk with his fighters that were from the Middle East, that were Muslim, because if they win and they put a microphone in their face and they say, all glory to Allah, you need to shut that down. And Dana White says, yep, I think we have 22 facilities in the world, have over 73 Pelotons. And I just told everyone and every one of them to take those things out and throw them in the fucking garbage. You know what I mean? That I'm not doing that. And then immediately gets a call when he does that on a podcast to the biggest competitor of Peloton and said, listen, you just got rid of 73 Pelotons. We got 73 new ones for you to put in, and we'll do it at our cost.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's that's one of my big issues with, in a lot of ways, like modern internet and modern society, is that this whole, like, you have to do what I say. And it's interesting because even though I cringed a little bit when I saw Elon Musk say those things, because I'm like, I get it. Like, I get his frustration, but at the same time, like, we're all, if we say something or share something that affects people and people are like, hey, we don't want to support you anymore, that was our choice to do that. And blaming someone else is not really a solution. It's just diverting reality to somebody else. So, like, I think what's so interesting about that is that there's like this large group of people, and it goes back to the whole subject of this, right? Which is words. There's this large group of people that are like, these words and these things are okay, and these words and these things are not okay. And the thing that I shared about Quentin Tarantino earlier was exactly, I think, the solution, which is the conversation aspect of it. Having conversations around these things and them sparking conversation is more important than what's actually being said. And I think what's so rare about that is we have stuck ourselves in this spot where we're so worried and thinking about what is actually said, or if they meant what they said, or what did they say, or these types of things, or what's their history and why did they say, how many times did they say that? And it just starts becoming like this like cluster of shit, instead of just having a conversation about, okay, they said that, you don't have to support them if you don't want to. Hey, this group of people is probably going to support them because they're pro that or whatever. I'm fine with
Why
those
do you
people
have the different news networks?
That's existed for as long as we have. So you're not going to be the first group to get rid of it. Right? I think it's one of those things where now that I'm like 31, almost 32, and I'm an older millennial in a sense, I see the younger generation and I wish that I could like instill that in them and tell them exactly what it took me so long to learn, which is, yeah, you're not going to fucking change like anything that way. Like, it just doesn't work that way, So if it did, that'd be great. But I don't think that telling people that they're wrong does anything but get them to vote for somebody that believes in what they believe in, even more so the case, instead of having a conversation about why.
And we see that in our politics today.
Right.
And not just the politics, but just but the news, I mean, news was my big thing when I was younger. I wanted to be a journalist. And the way that journalism has been co-opted.
Yeah.
I think we might have lost Craig.
No, I can hear him.
I can kind of hear him.
Lost.
Okay. I think we got you back. You're just breaking up. It says you're.
Yeah, I never lost a word.
Okay, go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, we just lost you for a quick moment.
Okay.
Anyways, but I think the co-opted versus corrupted, either way you want to say it, the idea of not allowing the freedom of speech. Now, it's like, okay, freedom of speech, fine. Do you want to follow that? Is it correct? Is it right to yell fire in a public location? These are things that, freedom of speech is supposed to protect us with. And then you have the people that have co-opted and corrupted speech and language and the way that it is in politics. And it is what kind of took me away from journalism. I still think that journalism is valuable, but when it's done in the original sense of it,
Right.
Because yes, words are important. How you say things is so important. And it's a shame that we have done what we have done to the words by today's standards to cause such a division in society, in our society, and not just our society here in the US, but in other societies worldwide.
So words do matter.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think there's, like I agree with you completely, Craig. I think that there's, I don't know, the more that we focus on whataboutisms and what ifs and live there instead of having conversations about reality, the longer this is going to go on and the harder it's going to be.
Right.
Because I think every single time things have ever moved in a positive direction, it's with conversation, not fighting. And I think the lack of conversation in almost anything, most things in life nowadays, whether it's politics, business, a lot of things, people are told that they're kind of like the end all be all decision makers. And they think that the world revolves and shapes around them.
Yeah.
Instead of the waking up to the reality of it, which is like, you're just one of the many that get to experience whatever the hell this is. And isn't that great? But at the same time, I have to experience this with some people that I just don't agree with and don't like.
Right.
And guess what? They're not going anywhere. They're going to be here for 50 years from now when I'm still alive. They're going to still be here. They might be different people, but they'll still be here. So
we talk about this pendulum swing sometimes. When you said that, Matt, I thought it was very interesting that Craig and I grew up where it was very, very widely published and told that me as a young man, that my opinion didn't count. And what I thought was bullshit. It was like these sayings that you even say here, don't speak unless spoken to. It's like that was like the law of the land, that everyone that was young in my generation knew they didn't know.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy that they knew they didn't know? And now I feel, this is a big brush, is that everyone now feels like their opinion does fucking matter, that their thoughts are the only thoughts.
Right.
I mean, think about that. What a pendulum.
I mean,
it's like, I'm taking pictures of me,
right,
what my thoughts and opinions are, and that didn't make me feel good. And funny. And it even gets to the point where I know that I'm stepping on some toes when I say this. It's like, all these things that have to do with what I identify with. It's like I'm not saying anything wrong or right against that. It's just, that's got to be why the older generation doesn't get the younger generation. It's like, listen, there was a lot of times where I identified with not wanting to go to school. I would identify myself as a person that just did not go into the box. I knew, see, here's what was such a blessing about saying that I was mentally challenged is all the people that were educated were in agreement that I didn't fit in the box. It was what a blessing that was. It's like that kid is not normal. He's got to go to special classes. He's got to have special teachers because he's a special kid. We'll be nice and just call it special. So it was very open to me that when someone held up a card and said, you know, what is this word? And I would say tum because I couldn't see the H. And when I said the word and you see 5 adults go, this kid has a problem.
Well, it's interesting because like the more, go ahead. Sorry, Dad.
And then as a kid, you look at them get quiet, turn to each other and whisper. This is got to be
They
really
start writing
good.
on the paper, right?
Yeah, this is got to be really good for your confidence. It's like, okay, I'm figuring out right now that I'm unique, different, and the world is different for me.
Right.
Isn't that crazy? Where I sort of feel like I feel bad for the other kids that just felt like, hey, I guess I'm part of this box training. And I'm going to be judged by how much I suck at a subject instead of giving praise and recognition for what I'm naturally good at. So I'm great at writing. I'm great at drawing pictures. And I'm really, really great at painting and singing. But, you know, you suck because you're not good at math. And you don't like science. You listen, I like creative stuff. I don't want to cut a frog open. You know, it's like I don't like killing things. Well, listen, you're a weirdo because you don't fit in the box. But they had to be in the box until they discovered that.
Yeah, no, of course. There's,
Yeah.
I think that when you know, and I sent this to you guys even earlier. It's like, over 50% of the adults in the United States can't read above, I believe it was a 6th grade level, 6th or 7th grade, or maybe it was higher than that. I don't remember. But it's like, okay, now we also know that 95% of all adults went through the United States educational system. So what the hell? Right? Like, because that now we know there's kind of that's kind of the way, right? And I think it kind of goes back to like even at that moment in time, Dad, when someone's telling you that, all you get to do is realize very early on that you're unique and that you're not going to necessarily fit in the machine. And I think that's kind of just gone a little too far in the other direction where like right, where it's more like I think it's more so the case where people not only need their own personal identity, but then they kind of like live based off that identity instead of having factors that make them who they are. Like if you're interested in something like sports, like football, then you are a football fan. And if you really love it, then maybe you're a football fanatic, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that Matthew is a football fanatic. It just means I love football.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
It's
gosh,
one
yes.
element of who I am. And I think the hard part is that there's a lot of, okay, this is the trait that I am, and this is who I am, and that is exactly all that I'm going to be currently. And it kind of is similar to where, like, you know, some people go through phases, goth phases and stuff like that. And I am not talking about transgender stuff at all with this. I'm just talking about in general the way that people are and their uniqueness. And I think it's just gone so far in the other direction where now people need other people to realize who they are based off of the principles that they live by, when you have zero control over that and never will. I never will have control over that.
My brother, go ahead.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Craig.
No, I was gonna say my brother and I battled that. The fact that people, because I was a good student. Now I have my sister ran into that because I led, of course, through school. And then my sister got a hold, well, you're not like Craig. And my sister actually went to a teacher and said, I'm not my brother. I remember her saying that, and I went, good for you.
Yeah.
And my brother, who is 3 years younger than I am, 3 years younger, when he got into school, he got the same thing. You're not, they expected him to be like my sister and I. And my brother, he totally shut down because of that.
Wow.
Mhm.
But he went into a different direction. And when I look at my brother, I am so proud of him because he's an artist. He draws. I can't draw. I can look at things. I can line things up. I can't
Did you just say
freehand
that
draw.
word can't?
Oh, sorry. I am unable to. I'm sorry,
These-
Melanie.
I was gonna say I'll just use fancier words to get to the same.
Yes, exactly.
I am unable to.
I am unable to.
I get no
this
pleasure
current
out of. I get no pleasure out of looking at stick people.
Exactly.
Well, I was talking. I have one quick thing to
yeah.
share after you're
Please.
done, Craig. Go ahead.
No, I mean, just in a nutshell, is the fact that maybe I don't know how to do certain things without the proper training, but my brother, bam,
Yeah.
he can ride a skateboard, he can plumb, he can do art, he can do photography a lot better. And people don't think that because of the predisposition, because of the words,
Yeah.
and because of, the fact that sometimes when people come before you, they expect, and they don't take you for who you are and what you are, Matt or Robert. Just exactly what you've said.
Go, Matt.
No, yeah, I was just gonna say too, like it's kind of insane because the more that you look at it, right, and the more that you look at whether it's your upbringing or the culture that you're in. Are you guys not hearing me right now?
We can hear you.
Perfect.
Okay, I don't think I'm sending it. Oh, it is. It is. So the culture that you're in shapes you, and then of course your upbringing is going to change you and shape you quite a bit. And when you look back at how long those things have existed, you'd like laugh your ass off, right? Like there's this thing that me and Hannah were talking about last night, which is, okay, there were thousands of years, you guys, thousands of years where human beings were doing the same shit different day. Thousands of years. Then in the 1800s, electricity shows up, light bulbs show up, and then in the span of 300 or 400 years, we're here where we are right now. When thousands of years, it was almost near the status quo, farming, the same stuff, right? And you look at, as me and Hannah are talking, and it's like we're getting older, and you think about having a family and stuff, you start going, man, my parents might have had a hard time connecting with me because I was raised with the internet in a way that they never had, right?
Right.
They never had access to that information. They never had access to communication at that level with other random people on the internet. How would you ever parent around that when you have no idea the hell that is? And then you think about just what's happened this year with AI or the last 5 years with COVID and everything else that's happened. Me and Hannah, I'm like going, shit, I have no idea what our kids are going to
Can you
be or
imagine? Can you imagine
experiencing. It's going to be so
going?
different.
It'd be because so you sit down with your child and you say, "Listen, let's go check AI." Because I was about ready to tell you a bunch of bullshit on the way that I think and I
Right.
believe that it should be, but we need to go check to see what my sources were before I share this.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I'll just have GPT there, and my kid's gonna be like, "Nope, that's not what GPT said." I actually wrote or am writing a short story that I would love to do as like an animated thing about this. I shared it with you, Dad, a while ago when you lived in
I
Newport,
remember.
where I had this idea for a story where it was like, and don't steal this because you just won't make it as good as I will.
Hey, they can't
So
take
don't
the
ruin
magic.
it for me.
They can't
But-
take the magic.
Besides that,
But-
it's copyrighted now that you've brought it up because we are bringing it
Well,
up
there's
here,
no
and it's-
original ideas, but
True.
I fully expect someone else to make this. But I think that there will be a moment in time in my life where our children or my children or people in general will utilize AI for all of the wealth of human information. Like, so if you wanted to know what happened in the Roman Empire, so you're thinking about it, right? Hypothetical. What happened here? You, instead of going on Google and reading a bunch of articles, that will no longer be the way that we gain information. We'll sit down and ask an AI what happened at this time in the Roman Empire and have a conversation about it. The problem with that is what happens when you have 100, 200 years distance between the existence of AI and the non-existence of it? Because then what will end up happening is what if the AI wanted to change parts of human history and the way that they happened and didn't happen and the way that it tells us it happened? You could have a whole total different version of humanity 300 years from now, because all of the knowledge that we've gained before that we fed into a machine went, human beings don't need to know this part the way that it is. It only made them dangerous. So let's just leave that part out.
I was just thinking the same thing. It's like, I want to know.
So now you're dealing with totally different versions of history.
Yeah. I want to know about this individual during this time.
Right.
I can imagine the first question that AI would ask me. Do you want to know the negative things they did or the positive things they did?
Yeah, I mean, it's already kind of does that, right? Because those are the guardrails, right?
If you ask history, you know, how many places can you go and read about the Rockefellers or the Vanderbilts or Andrew Carnegie? See, history does not want everyone to know the impact on people in a positive way that these fucking people had. It's just I find this whole weirdness about, like, you know, the story of Howard Hughes. One of the best stories that never was told about Howard Hughes, that they even bring up in his documentary, that the guy was so pissed off and so erratic that he needed to find every way that was legal to not pay taxes. And in his ability to do that and figure it out, he died allowing $1 billion endowment for children forever to be able to go after whatever they want in getting the funding to go after these incredible ideas. They say that the Howard Hughes Foundation is responsible for like 3,200 inventions, where kids found out about it, went there, applied for a scholarship or a grant, and was able to go after the idea that they wanted, because Howard Hughes is trying to figure out how not to pay the government because they pissed him off on a couple of things.
That's the domino effect for sure. I always love that meme where it's like that small domino and then you have the big one. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's like,
so Howard Hughes did some incredible things, but they say that according to the history, that Howard Hughes has done pretty close to 7,000 things that he should be known for, that he's not known for, because he had no part of it, because his foundation did it.
I think you think of some people like the Rockefellers.
What words do you want to hear?
Well, it's interesting because, you know, when we educate one another or we speak about this type of stuff, we always take into context our own affiliation or care for this stuff. So like, if I'm telling a story about my dad, it's a good story because I care about my dad, right? As where if I'm telling a story, love you too. If I'm telling a story about someone I don't like, odds are I'm gonna leave the good parts out and only put the bad parts in there, right? And that's just something we instinctively
we hear that
do
all the time. I mean, people are you know, you like somebody, but this other person doesn't. Well, wait a minute, that's not the same person that I remember.
Let me tell you about some shit they did that you're probably not aware of.
Yeah,
and I'm using my words, so. Hey, does it all go back to the golden rule?
Yeah. Well, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't have something good to say, maybe shut your face, especially if you don't know if the words are true.
If you don't know what you know isn't so.
So, you know, there became a part in my life where it's like, just to say something, to feel important, to be connected in a conversation with others, to try to impress them of my wisdom and my knowledge. There has been, and this is all the guy said to me. He said, Robert, are you familiar with delayed windshield wipers? I said, I'm a mechanic. So he's saying, you can actually set the settings. And I said, yeah. And he says, it takes practice and awareness, but there is that delay switch between your mind and your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And
I had to learn that. Yeah.
He said the smartest people in the world are people that think like chess players. So it's not only when someone said something that you're waiting for them to shut up and you're not listening because you can't wait to interrupt because you have such an important point. You're just looking for their delay so you can dive into the conversation to show your importance and your wisdom on your point of view. Okay. What if there was a delay of you doing that you actually listened to the person all the way through, and you even did something uniquely different than other people do? You asked them questions about the shit they just said. Now, let me understand this correctly. You said this, and this. Tell me why your belief is that. Take the time to ask a couple of questions first to show that you're fucking listening. Second, to make it clear that what they're trying to say is actually what you're hearing. And then 3 is use that delay that if you have something to say, good or bad, toward that situation, is that going to lead to this reaction that leads to this reaction that leads to something that doesn't go not anywhere? So that's when you hear some of the greatest philosophers in the world is the most powerful thing you could say is nothing at all. Why do you feel the need to interrupt, jump in with your thought and wisdom that you don't even know where it fucking came from?
I that's so deep because
or whether it's true. What if you're saying shit that's not true?
Right. No, I think there was that Bo Burnham special, and he had this one line that sticks with me still to this day. If you guys don't know who that is, definitely look him up. He's a comedian, but I'd say he's more of like an artist in many ways. But he had this ending of his whole entire special, and he sat and turned the lights up and looked at the whole audience, and he said, if you can do you're looking at me famous thinking this is where I would want to be. I want to be in front of everyone. I want to be noticed. I want to be seen. I want to be called a genius, all these things. And he's like, if I can give you one piece of genius advice because you think I'm a genius, if you can live your life without an audience, do it. Because you'll have a better life. You'll experience things happier and better. And it took him so long to figure that out, that if you can just live your life with your own opinions, your own thoughts, your own things, and you don't need a fucking audience for them, that you'll actually find happiness there, that you can just be who you are. And people will respect you for who you are because you don't push your stuff on other people. You don't tell them they're wrong for what they believe or think, and that you're right, or that I've stopped, like, if someone's wrong in something, this is how far I've taken it now at this point in my life. Someone says something factually wrong, and I'm a movie buff. So if they say like, oh, did you know that Lord of the Rings, they like took all this time and they shot them in this way? And I know that that's not the truth, right? Because I'm a film buff. I don't correct them anymore. Because instead of just like you're saying, Dad, instead of thinking of what I would say, like, oh shit, they got this wrong, I'm going to be able to show them how smart I am. I know more than them. I think to myself, how would I feel if I just met somebody and I said something, and even though it's wrong, their first response was to tell me I was wrong.
Yeah.
I'll let someone else do that.
Embarrass and humiliate me in front of other people. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And you start to realize that, like, when you care for people and their words and how they think and how they feel, like you're saying, Dad, and you actually listen, you really, really start to have like actual friendships and relationships with people that have value, instead of, like you said, you give and you hope to receive. That goes away when you start having confidence in who you are and what you need from people and what you need from yourself. And you stop giving so much hoping to get it back.
Right.
Like, that's the truth of it. So,
well, it really comes down to that whole thing too, is, when people just say, Matt, Craig, I understand what you're saying, but you shouldn't feel that way when you're not uniquely that individual.
And you
Right.
don't know what we've gone through to get
That
our
Yeah.
experiences.
that
Exactly,
sentence
Craig.
should
Yeah.
be that sentence should be removed from your vocabulary.
Yeah.
It should really be removed from your vocabulary, because when, Matt was dealing with certain issues in his life, I really think God, because I believe in a higher power, whatever that is, that I had the wisdom to understand that I didn't understand what he was going through. That no matter if I was his father or all the personal development that I went through, I immediately understood that I didn't know how to help him. So I needed to find people that could help my son. That's when you know that you give a shit about somebody, is when you don't have the answers to help them, but you can encourage them and direct them in a position to get them in front of people who fucking can.
Yeah. I love you, Dad, and I appreciate you for that. Like, I really, it's the truth. I think that is the true version of giving and not thinking, oh, I'm going to receive this or that. Because when I think back to that, and I think back to, finally being diagnosed with OCD and actually dealing like with the problems that I was mentally dealing with, it I don't think it would have happened that way if you would have been like, "Hey, here's this person that I know that is," if you would have said, "This is the way to do it," I don't think I would have listened to you. And I
No,
think you're aware of that. I think that
I am.
that even in the cases, it's funny because even in the cases nowadays, the relationship that we have, I think I even do that to you now, and I learned that from you, where it's
Yeah.
like, if I tell my dad this shit, he'll probably go, he'll listen to me because he respects me. But at the same time, if I get Alex Hermosi, the guy that's making millions of dollars, and I send him a video and he's like, "Hey, this is what's going on," or it's like the CEO of Google talking about AI or Elon Musk, I'm like, little different, right? Here's somebody that you
What is with
respect.
that? What is with that expert from afar? You know
Well,
what
I
I
mean,
mean?
you teach it. I
So
think that
someone's smart enough to not say I don't know, but maybe I know someone that could deliver this message and help this person.
right.
See, we're definitely not on here. This is our podcast. But if anybody wants to know why you're struggling and failing in business, is because you're making it about you. You're the know-it-all. You're the person that's supposed to learn everything, and you're supposed to be the person that guides people instead of just listening and putting them in front of people that can help them. Holy shit. So that's what I learned that I try to get through to other people, is be good enough to give praise and recognition to someone smarter than you, and find people that have difficulties wanting to get to the next level of their life and make those intersect.
Mm.
I am not interested in rewriting this fucking book. Isn't that interesting?
No,
It's
that's
like
so true. So
you
true.
got these people that again, there's something in there, the words that people spoke to them make them feel that if they don't know the answers, that they're inadequate. When the people I, now at 61, respect the most is the people that tell me they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I get so much gravitational pull that now I know the magic to making hundreds of billions of dollars is a person with a vision that's willing to share it with others so they can share it with others, so the smartest people in the world come to your calling and make it happen.
Yeah, you need others to do it.
It's like, and you got the know-it-alls that go, they don't know anything. They just hired a bunch of people that know everything. That's a pretty good fucking skill right there.
It's one of the most important ones to have.
Yeah.
It's like I think that I and I've been in those camps, right? Where I've been like, oh, you're giving this person too much credit. But I think as I've gotten older and realized what it takes to like lead people to one clear vision, I think it is very apparent that it takes a unique individual every single time to do that. And I think that's why the politics are all over the place. Is because it's like, we're winning now and we're going to do this. And then we're winning now and we're going to do this. There's no like clear defining person
no,
saying, here's where we're going. And it's a positive for everybody.
Thank you, Matt.
It's got to always be a negative for the other side.
There's like not a group of people in today's politics that are all looking at each other going, I need to be honest. Can I be the first to raise my hand? Yeah. I do not have a fucking clue how to get us out of this situation. And everyone pauses for a second and goes, I don't either. And other ones go, I don't either. And as they all say, I don't know, they all look at each other and go, let's find people that do. Let's find a situation in individuals that we can listen to and not argue with to get us out of this fucking shit. No, it's two groups of people that know one thing for a fact, that the other person's fucking wrong. Whatever you do, don't listen to that fucking guy or that girl. Holy shit. Is that the talent that it takes to be a politician today? Is just to stand up and say, that person sucks, that person sucks, that person sucks. It's all about tribal of saying the other person sucks instead of no one being humble enough to stand up and go, I'd like to argue, but I don't know if they're right or they're wrong. I just know I don't know.
Yeah, I think,
it's gotten to that.
How we like the likes or the views or whatever, because it gives us a certain feeling. I think politicians are still human. So what ends up happening is they find their group, a niche, and they just keep diving into it because they like the popularity and the fame and the money that comes with it more than the sense of community or anything else that comes with it.
What could I say?
And God forbid they be wrong.
What could I say that would go viral so people know who the fuck I am?
Well, if you've got that humility,
ChatGPT.
Say you show up to a meeting with someone that's threatening you with nuclear war. And instead of pumping up your chest and going, we could hit you with weapons much bigger than nuclear weapons that you got. Just being humble and going, I don't want our people to die. I don't want your people to die. Let's figure out a solution to this problem. And let's negotiate. Let's figure it out. Let's have a conversation about it. If you did that, then the news cycle the next day would be, the president of the United States is weak and wants to talk with somebody else that's a dictator that hurts their own people, and they're negotiating with someone that hurts their own people. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's like, do you want everybody else to die? I'm confused what the solution you want is, because I think a true leader is someone that can look at a situation like JFK did or other presidents did in the past and go, if I overstep in this situation, it could mean the deaths of many, many innocent people. I'm not going to, my ego isn't worth that. It's not worth it. So we're going to wait it out. We're going to see.
Well, people can say what they want about Richard Nixon. Okay. But the fact that he actually said and stepped down. I mean, I know there's other circumstances behind that, but Matt, what you just shared is exactly it. And that's what's missing.
Yeah. We're not going to war, and that's it. Okay. Well, we'll shoot you in Dallas and put a vice president in that will.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think that that's one of those timeline
me and Terry
right?
just watched a documentary. It was like, oh my God, it makes you so mad that, why I even thought for a millisecond that the government was telling me the truth. You know what I mean? But
you're telling me that the PsyOps teams that wanted to keep going kept going after the guy that wanted to get rid of them disappeared or got eliminated.
No. You used the word right there, Matt. Disappeared.
Basically. Yeah, it's
And again, it's funny, we talked about so many things in these couple of hours and we never left the subject.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's one of those subjects that it's one of those subjects that
words. There's these people over
encapsulates
here
who we
that
are.
are going like, oh my God, this guy is becoming way too powerful. What if he said things that not only inspired the people, but he actually could get the people to like him so much that he could actually make change happen? That can happen.
It's so interesting because you talk to people nowadays, and I truthfully believe that there's really like an extreme level of hopelessness as far as anything changing for the better. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because me growing up, right? I didn't get the 80s and the 70s or anything like that. I've got the 2001s on is most of my memory. So you
Right.
can assume that the world quite different
Yeah.
since then. And I think that there's this like obvious level of pessimism that exists where even if you had someone show up, like I was even saying, and you were humble and you were like, this is where we need to go. I still think with the world that we're living in today, you'd have a bunch of people saying that that's not possible.
Right.
And you know that. And you'd have a bunch of people saying that person is their heads in the clouds. They need to not be president because clearly they're psychotic. They think that everything can get better. Right. So I don't know. I'm just hoping that AI fixes everything.
Well, thank you for taking the words. You took my thoughts, Matt, like you usually do. I'm still, chief optimist officer. And I believe words are things, and the power of words that I like to leave everybody with in my closing statement is that thoughts are things, and thoughts applied to words are powerful. And whether you're a religious person or not, you can read a lot of things and it's like, I believed in this and I said this and then this happened. It wasn't just something that happened with God through the stories, whether you believe them or not. There's people that are consistently in this world that said things out loud to large groups of people that hated him and wanted to kill him. And the words change things. So, if you ever read The Science of Getting Great, the stories about Abraham Lincoln, whether you liked him or not, and why the book focused on him is because he had to solve a problem that wasn't solved before that time. You got to be a pretty outside thinker when you don't get to look at people and say, well, how did everybody else stop slavery? Oh, they didn't. That's why it's here. And so you say the words hard and strong enough where, still to this date, I think more people were killed in the Civil War than any other wars combined, and it
Americans.
it was, the North and the South fighting each other because of words. And to think that came out on the other side, there's still a large group of people in the world that believe that it's still affecting them. That's words. And then there's other people at the same race that said, that empowered me to be who I am today. And that's why I have a studio in Atlanta that employs more Black people than any other company. Wow. How can you hear the same thing and one person is inspired by the words to be the greatest African American, while other people feel still like they're being held down because of their ancestors were slaves? I'm not Black, so I can't speak about that. But I do know that in every world, in every situation, there's this dichotomy of someone the exact opposite of you that heard the same words and thought different. So in my closing argument, if there's a bunch of people that feel like their current situations can't be better because they're praying or just saying, please, please, let something resolve all these issues. And then something comes up where we not only hear about AI, but then I sent Matt and Craig a video today that was on 60 Minutes last Sunday about they're now calling every computer that we're using in the world as classic.
Right.
Classic computers. Because the ones that are coming out will be able to do what the computers take 2 or 3 years to do in a millisecond.
Yeah, quantum computing is what he's talking about.
Yeah, so, man, it's like I'm thinking quantum computers with AI, the governments of the world are gonna wanna shut this down. But it's too late. Because
It
people
really
go,
is, yeah.
how are you going to solve this situation? And it's like with the current people that you have in office, you can't.
That's one thing that I really love about AI is that
Yeah,
one
it's
thing that I
like,
really love about it, unless if you're like a really big doomer thinking it's going to kill everybody, right? One thing that I really love about it is because it's such an important piece of technology like electricity or the internet, no one government can stop it,
yeah,
right? It lives in this territory where if the United States was like, we're stopping Google and OpenAI from doing any other higher AI models, that's not going to stop China or any other country from allowing that. And it will
right,
eventually happen, or it will happen in someone's garage. No matter what you try to do to stop it, it's not really that. Everything you said with the quantum computing thing is true. We're eventually going to be at a point where we'll look just like we see horses and cars now and all these things from the past that we utilize, rockets in comparison to airplanes. It'll be like, wow, we really could get there a lot faster with rockets, right? Kind of can't fly outside of Earth's atmosphere and keep going with an airplane. So we're gonna have to figure out something else. And that's where quantum computing is. It sits at that place where every single thing that says 0 and 1 and gets sent has a recall. And with quantum computing, that is almost non-existent. It's like it's
right.
communicating with itself constantly, like us,
Yeah.
right? And that's the crazy thing is when you watch it and you see all the liquids going through it and you see all the cooling stuff that's happening, how
I,
it's regulating itself, and you go, okay, we just need the outer frame to put this quantum computer in with a brain, and we've got us to a certain extent, right? And it's really, really cool because we're really not that far away from that. And I think as things change, I love getting on these podcasts and talking about it, and this will be my closing thing, and then Craig, you can share, but I believe as things continue to go, that the words that will matter will be the ones that you're saying to yourself. The words that won't matter as much will be the words that you're saying to others because they're gonna find out that that's something they have to do themselves too.
are the words you think they're thinking?
Oh, that's even more so the case, right? Like, I truthfully believe that there's going to be this bridge between how we are now and how we will be in the future, just like there was a bridge between the past and now. Like I just said, the last 300 years. If you look back and you go, man, I can't imagine having an industrial age into a technological age, and all these things are helping each other, and they're back to back to back. I could talk to my grandma and I think telephones were just around, right? Cars, certain other aspects were brand new at the time, television. And now we have all of these things, and it's been in her lifetime that that's all happened. So I think in the future, all you could do is just work on the words that you say to yourself and how you go about those things, because words are important, as we've shared. How important are they? The most important.
Yep.
So that's my closing remarks. So, Craig, to you.
Well, the only way I mean, you guys have said so much already, and we all have. We've all
Yeah.
shared our views. The one thing that just stood out within like about the last 10 minutes. Yes, Robert, I do get some downloads too.
I know we do. We all do.
Oh
We
yeah.
all
Oh
do.
yeah.
Yes. But the pen is mightier than the sword. And think about that and how we do use words. People can hit you, people can strike you, but if people say certain things to you, can you forgive that?
Ugh.
And that's something that we have to always be aware of. And I say that not just if I say it to you, But if I say it to me,
Yeah.
I mean, I could inflict as much pain as I want. I could, do this all day long. That's not going to hurt me, but my words, the words. And Benjamin Franklin was right in that regard. And look where we are, look where we've come from, look where we're going to go.
Right.
And these, the words that we say to ourselves and to others are so important that we just have to be aware of that and how we affect others with those words. Because you can forgive somebody for hitting you, you can forgive somebody for striking you, but can you forgive somebody for saying something about you? And that includes yourself.
Amen.
That's beautiful. I think that's a perfect. That
Good
beautiful.
close.
Thank you, Craig.
That's why he's the MC right there.
I feel like you just tied it all together. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. You guys are the inspiration. You guys are the words.
We're all in that little synergy thing that we're willing to trust each other and be open enough with each other where we get to spin off each other. And so where, more than one is there's another mind in the midst, whether people believe it or not. And that's where the mastermind came from. So,
right.
Go ahead, Craig, close her out.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Matt.
you guys very, very much. Bless you. You can also follow Robert Hollis at roberthollis.com. Also on YouTube at roberthollis.com/YouTube. On Instagram at instagram.com/official Robert Hollis. And on TikTok at tiktok.com/@real Robert Hollis. Please don't forget to like and share this video on YouTube and share it with others. It will help us grow our community and reach those that have ears to hear. Our schedule is Sunday through Friday, 12 p.m. Pacific with Going Live. Robert shares thoughts going live every day at 12 p.m. Pacific. Then on Saturdays, you get to ask Robert any question you want. It's Ask Me Anything at 12 p.m. Pacific. Ask Me Anything with Robert Hollis. Then, of course, you have our How Do You Know That podcast, like today, 1 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. And then if you're part of the inner circle, join us at roberthollis.com/join, or click that join button down below on this video. And you'll get more in-depth, more personalized instruction with our inner circle from Robert. And that is every Thursday, starting at 3 p.m. Pacific. That's part of the inner circle. Thank you. And shout out to our executive producer, Matt Hollis. Matt, thank you so very much. You're an amazing visionary. Robert, you are too. Bless each and every one of you. And thank you for watching and taking time out of your busy schedule to be a part of our podcast. We appreciate you. We love you. Until next time, please be good to yourselves. Be cash. And bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Love you guys. Love you for watching.